Hello and welcome to the Madecast, the official podcast of the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment, a series of lectures on video game history as part of the Made's ongoing effort to preserve history through teaching and displaying playable exhibits of rare games and consoles. Thank you for listening to the Madecast. The support of listeners like you helps keep the Made up and running. Our new hours are 12 to 7 p.m. Wednesday and Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sundays. I'm Red, and this week I sat down and interviewed Kate Woods and Michael Devine from ZIggurat Games. We had a great talk about what they do and their passion for reviving older titles for newer eyes. But first, we have a little bit of news to get into, and a little bit to talk about. I released a update on the situation of the podcast and how it's been going. We're just going to be going on a little less of a little slower of a pace now with everything that everybody's been going through. So we're just looking for new help, taking a little bit easy. This has been going for as long as we can maintain it for a while, but we're going to try and keep it going for as much as we can. So a little bit of news that we got right now. Overwatch 2 is out. Overwatch 2 is a Blizzard's sequel to the highly successful kind of team match. It is a great sequel so far. It is free to play, so go download that on any console or PC. Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. There are a few new characters as well that are worth checking out. The gameplay is now 5v5 instead of 4v4, and it has replaced the original Overwatch. The original Overwatch is now a dead game, but give this new one a shot. It's been getting a lot of great reviews, and it seems like a blast with the new modes and the new characters. It's definitely a fun time worth checking out. Gotham Knights is also a new game that has been released. It is unfortunate that it has got such poor reviews. Some of the videos that I've seen of this game have been a little bit choppy, not quite as polished as I believe it could have been. It looks fun, but it's not something that I would necessarily look for unless there are some updates that could be coming out in the future. But also, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet will be releasing very soon. Those are the biggest things that I'm currently looking forward to. Probably the next big game that I will be sinking my teeth into. There are so many new things that have been added to these Pokemon games that have been announced. So there are 18 gyms now. Instead of the traditional 8, there is a lot. There is a second storyline involving Team Star, which I believe it's called Team Star, but they're essentially the Team Rocket of this world. There's a whole side story to do that. You get your legendary earlier on in this match as well. Getting it earlier on has been a huge thing, which helps you traverse the actual map. This is just this map. This map looks incredible and huge and vibrant and lived in. This is going to be a fantastic addition to the Pokemon line of games, and I will be looking forward to playing it, as I'm sure many of you will as well. So, without any further ado, let's get into the interview with the people from ZIggurat Games. Hello, and welcome back to the Madecast. Today, I am joined with Michael and Kate from ZIggurat Interactive. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
So, why don't you both introduce yourselves and what you both do at ZIggurat? Kate, if you'd like to go first.
I will take that one. I am, I joke, the company mom. We are mom and dad of ZIggurat. But really, my focus is operations. I come from people and processes is really my area of expertise. So, but in the meantime, I also oversee marketing, finance, and just really, I make sure all the pieces work. But the magic happens with Michael.
Mm.
Get out. Yeah.
So Michael, you're a magician, I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, no. She forgot one very important role that she has running this company, which is she keeps me in check. Because
Mm.
without keeping me in check, I think we'd go off the rails really, really quickly. But yeah, my part of the equation is senior vice president of business development. Um, I basically work on getting the opportunities and the contracts and the partners to bring into our fold that allows us to do what we do with our catalog of retro games. And I know I anticipate the next question, so I'll just go ahead and answer it.
Hmm.
I have been doing. I used to tell people I did this for 35 years. I actually did the math, and I have been a liar.
Hmm.
I'm doing this for 34 years, hoping to.
Oh.
I know. Sorry. Full
Hmm.
disclosure. I can't do odds and evens on years, so that's why I came up with 34. But yeah, I I started in this business in the 1980s, and like most people, I had to fight and struggle to get in because it was really hard being in Southern California at the time. There weren't a lot of different publishers and developers out here. But I spent about 2.5 years trying to get into the business, and eventually I did. And I had a lot of stops along the way. Probably the biggest one was almost 7 years at 3DO.
Hmm.
Working there, starting as a Western regional sales rep when there were almost no national accounts in the West, all the way up to VP of sales there, and also TDK and some other places as well. And then about 10 years ago, I transitioned to the digital gaming business, which was a big transition
Hmm.
for me anyway, and had to learn everything about Steam and the fact that everything wasn't based on how many carts you wanted to produce. It
Hmm.
was based on getting on people's platforms, and it's been a crazy ride. But I have a super soft spot for retro gaming because when I started, these very same games were just called gaming.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it's
Yes. Like some of the, it's amazing how some of like if because yes, the in like video games have been around for like 50 plus years now at this point,
yeah,
but hearing them being called retro games is
Mm.
it's still even weird for me. It's like I'm a younger generation. I started with like Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2.
which is
So
pretty. That's definitely old.
now it is. But because it's like it's stuff that I grew up playing, then it doesn't feel like that. It just
Yeah.
feels like, oh,
Yeah.
that's just gaming, like you said. It's
In college, I dated a girl because she had an Atari 2600. I don't like saying that. I don't feel good about
well,
it,
no, you
but
should. That's a good reason. That's a good system.
It's very
It's
valid.
like, no
yeah,
feelings were hurt, I hope, but is
yeah.
uh, so uh what is what is it that you guys do at Ziggurat? What is the main goal of Ziggurat? Because from what I've found out, I think like both Ziggurat and the Maid have a lot in common with kind of our main goals
Mhm.
and missions to preserve games and make sure that they're playable for future generations.
Well, I feel what was really fun for us was we were doing the branding exercise, and this was really the birth of Ziggurat. Um,
Hmm.
and we were all explaining our first interaction with gaming. And we had a few of us in the room that were different ages, life experiences.
Yeah.
We're playing on different consoles, but we were talking about those those moments where you lose time and space,
Yeah.
and you're interacting physically and mentally in this alternative universe, and you got immense excitement, and I rewired your brain in that moment. And
Hmm.
even when you recollect on it, whether it's the game or that first experience, it's just truly something that changes you. And
Hmm.
for us, it was because, we're talking about retro, and retro is so different for everyone.
Yeah.
In our instance, it was really, we wanted to be that bridge that took the past and then the present with the new technologies. And we wanted to tie them together in a way with respect and that memory and honoring that, that transportive moment that just opened your mind and truly excited you to the possibilities of playing in your imagination. And that really is what we do on a daily basis, because retro is different for everyone.
Hmm.
We have a variety of different consoles that we are now working with the modern technology, but we're pulling forward or kind of all these different origins and that those feelings. But really, it comes down to allowing as many of those transformational, exciting, visceral, joyous moments that all of us experience, and being able to share it and pull things out of the archive so that we can reimagine those experiences to new audiences.
That's amazing. That's very exciting to hear. Uh, do you but like so? Some of the catalog that you guys have had like some old like arcade games that you've brought back. You've had some old PC titles. You've had some old titles from across a variety of different platforms. Are there any specific games that would be either of your favorites that you've brought back to showcase to other people with Ziggurat?
Well, absolutely. And, and it really, that's such an individual question, right? Is
Yes.
is is what spurs your mind? And I know that I was thinking as Kate was answering the question and you were asking it. I mean, I started interactive gaming for reals,
Hmm.
after college when I got my first Mac, and there was no software except games, and so I started playing games. I had another friend who had a Mac. We started playing games, and the origin of retro gaming, significantly, and of course retro is depending on where you are and where you started and how long ago that is. I mean, people are looking nowadays at 2005 as retro gaming, and that's cool. But I think that one of the things about retro and what makes it so special, especially as you get to some of the 80s and 90s games,
Hmm.
is they were designed essentially without an internet.
Yeah.
They were designed without, easy multiplayer. And so they tended to be games that you and your friends would crowd around a screen
Hmm.
and figure out together and collaboratively, and it was super super fun. And so as we kind of, and we have everything from that, from beginning graphical adventures all the way to things like Blood Rain, that are a much more recent generation and a huge fan base, but that still remembers them in large part from an earlier part in their life and their gameplay experience. But to answer your specific question, which I'm always really bad at answering specific questions, okay, Kate, don't get so excited. She just that threw me. It's on record. We know corralling him is really hard. But I'm just going to say, I have always been in the modern era a huge RTS fan.
Hmm.
So I have a special special place in my heart for KKND, Crush, Kill, and
Mhm.
Destroy,
Hmm.
which we have. And we it's doing really really well on PC, and we constantly discuss what we could do and how we could move that forward. But that's a personal soft spot for me. I think I know Kate's answer,
Do
but I'm
you?
just going to.
Okay.
I do. I think I
I'm
do.
like a 5-year-old now, because we have this
For sure.
catalog, and every
Hmm.
time that one of our team does like a deep dive on a title, I get like really excited. And there's one in particular that I like, the oddities and the rarities, and there's something called zombie dinos from Planet Zeltoid, and it's
Hmm.
just amazing. It's just you can't explain it. I told my kids, I was like, just play it, and then they just kind of had this look on their face, like, what is happening? But you keep wanting to go and see what
You
happens
just
next.
keep
And
wanting to dip your toes in and find out more.
exactly.
I'm dumbfounded.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say a boy and his blob.
Well, that one too, absolutely. A boy and his blob. I would say, but when you can,
You talk about it
I
enough.
do, and that's another one too. That when you talk about a whole bunch of individuals around, doing gameplay, when I got the download code for Boy and his blob, because we were in the process of doing ESRB, we did a wonderful recent limited run for Boyna's Blob, and we had 9 kids in the neighborhood that were all around, and we were yelling about, which of the jelly beans and trying to figure out the puzzle systems. And it just was such a
Mhm.
wonderful experience that, again, that reminded me of being little and having the neighborhood kids playing, Super Mario 3. And, in my case, some of the earlier origins with the 2600, which is funny when you mentioned
Yeah.
dating a girl with 2600. Yeah. I mean, I have positive memories. Maybe that's why people dated me as well. So it's okay. I'm very content with that, like it. But,
Whatever it
yeah,
takes.
so it's that piece where, "Ask me in 5 minutes, Alex, because then I'm gonna go on to
Yeah.
another topic," and that's the joy of it, right? Is that you
Yeah.
have this collection of favorites, and
Yes.
we get to be the shepherds of collections of favorites to all the different, age groups and the skills and abilities and different technologies, and allowing people to access those
But
delights.
and again, we're really, really pleased and excited to be here. But in asking that question, and I'm sure Kate feels the same way. We have a group of people that we have brought into this company that just mirror everything that we're saying. I mean, in production, in art, in marketing, in development, uh, even in finance. We have people that are retro gamers that absolutely love games, and so the process of taking these games from acquisition all the way to either republishing or in a couple cases reimagining and publishing new. This isn't just Kate and I. This is every single member of our team feels that personal responsibility to get the best version of these games that they can out the door. And without that, you wouldn't be talking to us today. They
Mhm.
really helped us invent this company.
That's amazing. I mean, that's pretty much that also answers a question I was going to ask about why do you do this work? And that is sounds like a very it's noble. It's warms my heart to hear that there are such a solid group of people that still want to help preserve and cuz like there's all these like large titles that get preserved and like re-released. I mean, like
Mhm.
Switch and Nintendo are very popular for just re-releasing everything, but that is still only a fraction of the gaming world, and they're very selective at what they do. Um, and it seems that you all are releasing some of the like wider breadth of what was fun, what was enjoyable, what connected people and gripped them to these games.
And every month, Kate runs our monthly greenlighting meeting, and because it really talks to exactly what you're saying, right? Is we have the big ones, we know what the big ones are, and we're thrilled, right?
Yeah.
And we're always looking at how can we do more. But monthly greenlighting is all about what is in our catalog, what is in this is not an embellishment, 600 titles that we own at this point from a wide variety of sources. Is what can we bring to the front? What can we do? We have a monthly retro program. We try to, and we're getting back to it, releasing at least one or two retro titles from our catalog, either on a monthly or quarterly basis. And some of them you would call obscure, but put 10 retro gamers together and they're not. People know
Mhm.
them, people are aware of them. I'll tell you something that has not been publicly announced. Watch Kate's heart go up and down because yes, we will in the next month or so. We're going to be announcing our retro release of a top-down racer. Which is a category that doesn't get enough love unless
Mhm.
you have wasted so many quarters in an arcade you couldn't go to school.
Yeah.
But we're actually really excited about it. we're
Yeah.
and it's not the biggest game in the world, but it's really fun. It's really well made, and people liked it in the day, and we love being part of the process of bringing games like that back to audiences, and sometimes for the first time,
Yeah.
right? Who have never played them. So it's not just all about the Blood Rains and the Boys and its Blob. We have a lot of catalog, and we try to give love 365 days a year to the entire catalog. And as you probably know, I'm sure they're not. Some of them are not that easy to
Mhm.
get back, right? To
Yes.
get them like in a Windows environment, or to bring them up from a console gaming. Sometimes they're really really tough,
Hmm.
and so we also look at that is how much effort, how much finance, how much personnel, how much external partnership will we need. But when we can do it ourselves internally, it gives us a lot of latitude to bring some just classic, slightly smaller games to the market for fans to enjoy.
And that's like an amazing thing because I feel like the video game industry has been a little bit lacking behind similar entertainment like film and movies because they can still go back in their catalog of decades to re-release films on DVD, Blu-ray, any of these newer formats to still have them saved and available for a newer audience, somebody who has yet been exposed to these classics. And I think that what Ziggurat is doing at preserving some of these older games is severely needed in the environment right now, because there are so many games whose like intellectual properties and their source codes just they just get forgotten and left behind, and they were so impactful to so many people and just the gaming environment itself. They don't deserve to just kind of die a quiet, uh, like just a quiet death on these old systems.
We found some really early in our process, and we're really new. We're really a toddler. I mean, we're coming up on 3 years. We're just learning to speak,
Hmm.
and but we found early partnerships with other people at significantly limited run games,
Hmm.
who we kind of went and said, "Hey, we got retro games, and how interested would you be?" And they embraced it. They literally said, "We love this. This is needed. We want to do this." And early on, they've been a significant partner for us in getting it out to a wider audience, not just playing the games, but getting collector versions
Hmm.
of games, getting packaging that of games, going back to original carts and things of that nature. And so that was amazing for us to realize early on that we had the ability to even expand beyond the digital, to
Hmm.
recreate some of those initial ways of playing these games.
Yeah, it's like it's very exciting just to see, like especially with the physical titles too, because there are still like these systems are still around and they still exist and they can still play all these ancient games. Not ancient, but all these games that have been forgotten and left to the breadth of everything. So they're it's not necessarily retro if they're still like around. I mean, it's it's just a continuum of like where games have come, where they're going, and like what they are now.
Right.
So with all that being said, is there anything that that either of you, both of you, are excited for with the future of Ziggurat? Is there like a goal that you'd like? Is there a point where you would be happy? Is there a point? Well, not not necessarily in that phrasing exactly, but is there a point in the future that you're looking forward to grow Ziggurat and what you guys do?
I mean, there's so many things here. That question is it's twofold because I think we've talked about the games in
Yes.
particular, but as an organization, I'd say just like, the marriage of old and new and evolution in a gaming organization is that we have this community and this collective. And a big inspiration of mine and a passion that we didn't quite talk about, which was these providing an organization that really is focused on the people, the
Hmm.
gamers alike, and are equanimous and really thoughtful as it relates to everyone. We have a very flex schedule open organization that allows all kinds of people, however they want to present themselves, to live and work and do their best work, and follow their passion. And I would say as a result of that, we have so many different titles and different pieces coming up that are high contributors from our team to all the partners that we work with. And I think that every title we release are these little manifestations of not only the best of the best for the games and honoring those retro titles or these newer titles, but then evolving them. And we're moving into a new territory. There's a game in particular, Slave Zero X, where we're taking a Dreamcast title from 1999 and we're evolving it into like, what the developers have called a spiritual prequel, which is just viscerally amazing, and it's a pure joy to play. You have to like pull controllers out of people's hands because the fighting sequences are the things that like good addiction is made
Hmm.
out of. And
Yes.
I think that is one of the many titles in the different aspects where we're able to bring community, people, talent, passion, dreams, and artistry together in a way that can bring joy to life and share it with the world, which it's, like the museum and the foundation that you work for is essentially, it's like our fabric, and going
Hmm.
against it would be not making, doing our work right, doing
Yeah.
our life's work to honor the people. Yeah.
Hmm.
I would answer. Well, first off, everything Kate said is just spot on. I'll answer that a little bit differently since it's just the three of us and
Hmm.
nobody else is listening to this, because it's going to be a little inside baseball stuff.
Hmm.
Because it really answers your question about where we're going. We're a very small company.
Hmm.
We don't do internal development. Everything is external. So we work at times with 6 to 9 partners at the same time.
Hmm.
And the very first thing we do in our process, because as a small company, you can't start big. You have to start smaller. So
Right.
our first rung is, can we just turn the keys on the engine? Can we get it to work on PC? Can we, do we have enough original code or ROM or something that we can make it work? What we have been, I think, fairly unique in doing, because it's not just a single game, it's really a philosophy in multiple games,
Hmm.
is we go back to the original developers if they still exist. And in some cases, we're talking 20 years plus, and in some cases, a little less. And we go to them and say, hey, we picked up this title of yours, and we'd love to work with you to bring it back. And I mean, everything from people as well known as Way Forward, working on, even though it weren't their titles, they worked on both Blob and Blood Rain, to smaller companies, and we work with them, and that's really the first rung. The second rung is, can we do an enhanced version? Can we take that original game and make some changes to modernize it a little bit, to maybe make them work on 4K environments, full screen, something of that nature? It's more challenging than it sounds, because in a lot of cases we don't have the original code,
Hmm.
and nobody has the original
Yep.
code, but we work on that as well. And then the next rung, and every time we do this financially, it becomes more of a risk, but one we're dedicated to taking, is we take the original game and we just basically replace the footprint. We do new art, we do new sound, we do everything, but we really follow the path of that original game.
Hmm.
And we've done that in a number of cases. I think one of the most successful there was, we did Deadly Dozen, which is
Hmm.
a game that is not well known by a lot of people because it's a squad based World War II shooter, but with a big fan base, and people really love it. And then that final rung is where we reimagine. Is that we take we just finished Prison Tycoon, for instance, and you could really say the Slay Zero X, which we are super excited about, is the same thing. Is we take everything that was there, but we let the developer really create it from scratch. And for us, those are the pillars of how we approach retro. And we get really, really excited. I mean, with the Blood Rain series, the original developers were Terminal Reality, and they hadn't done this kind of work in a while, and we approached them a couple of years ago now and just said, hey, we'd love you to work on these games. And I mean, they were like, we'd love to work on these games. We'd love to do this. And we've been almost in constant partnership with them just on this series. And we acquired another game called Terminal Velocity, which we'll be releasing, I think, later this year, in just working with those original developers. So for us, the future in part is to continue to grow in what we can offer our consumers,
Hmm.
right? Is to continue to expand so that you see our products on PlayStation 5. You see our products on modern Xbox, and we're doing that. But the future is even bigger and brighter, because as we continue to be successful and continue to expand, the scope of our projects can increase as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where we are right now, is we're looking on those dream projects that we can start, that will take several years to do, with amazing partners to really produce amazing versions of our classic games.
That's so delightful to hear. I am really looking
I made it all
forward.
up. It's not true. It's 100%. It's 100% true. Kate, don't hurt me. Okay.
It's like, man, I could really talk off the top of my head. Words just come together.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm very excited to see what else is going to be coming out from ZIggurat. I want to thank you both for also coming onto the podcast and joining us today, and for the support and everything. We'd love to eventually, I'm sure, have you on again for a more talk, as we are running out of time a little bit for this episode today. But I am sure we would absolutely have you back on again to talk about some more special releases from ZIggurat Interactive. But while we have a few minutes left, I wanted to ask one of the Maid's most important questions that we do to all of our new volunteers. And I think you guys may already have an idea of what this is, but what is your favorite game? Either currently or of previous time?
Oh, mine's an easy one. It's the reason why my parents did not let us have video games in the house. It's pole position. Uh, I would crawl in. So my parents kept the Atari in their bedroom. So I would crawl into their room, about a 5-year-old, and I'd snap on the TV that would make that initial like crackling sound, kind of get rid of all that static. And then I would get driving in pole position. And that was just like, to this day, you mentioned any driving games, and I am down for it. The sizzle of the crash and the beginning sounds of the beeps, and yeah, from that moment, when you talk about those transportive moments, that was mine, and I live for all that feeling every time you start up a new game. But pole position is where it all started for me.
Well, yeah, it's funny when it's really hard to say one, and they change, right?
Yes.
Because you change, they change. But I will say, just based on what Kate said, what's amazing in our current world, because of the pandemic, is Kate and I have only met in person one time, which we are super, super close. At least I think. I'm not sure. I'm talking on my back.
We're close.
But we're very close. But now that I know it's pole position, I'm now going to add, and I will never drive with Kate. So that's like really cool, right? But mine was, we've established that I'm old, and I both of you are to blame for me saying that. But anyway, so in the 1980s, my job was to fly to Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, Babbage's, whatever, GameStop, and sell people stuff and games. And I was actually afraid of flying. So, I mean, really afraid of flying. Like, I would be 2 days before I'd have to go somewhere, I would be like, oh my God, I'm going to have to get on a plane. Well, I got a Game Boy Color, I think. And I popped in one of the first Pokemons. And I found, because they didn't make you turn off your electronic devices back then, I found that in takeoff and landing, playing Pokemon would just totally immerse me in the experience. And I just didn't think nearly as much about the plane hurtling into the air. And it evolved really quickly to I would spend most of the flight just staring at my Game Boy and playing Pokemon. And I have about a 30-year run on playing every Pokemon classic RPG game known to man. I'm no longer afraid of flying, just legendary Pokemon now. So
that's a fair fear.
Legendary status, Michael Devine.
That's right. And why don't they have cheats? Darn it! I just want to get there. Why do I
know. We'll see with this next generation coming out with Scarlet and Violet.
I know. I can't wait. Actually,
it feels like it's going to be. I've been out of the Pokemon loop for a minute, so this might draw me back.
Switch
in
rules.
for now.
Switch is amazing, by the way.
Just got a Hori split pad Pro, so I can play on the go.
Ooh, nice.
Even
we digress. That would be the second hour of the podcast. So.
But So thank you very much, Kate and Michael, for coming onto the podcast. And thank you for doing what you both do at ZIggurat. And we're very excited to see what you're doing in the future.
I think we loved being on it, didn't we, Kate?
Absolutely. And thank you, Alex, for all the work that
Yeah,
you do
thank
as
you.
well. It's
It was awesome.
like company. It's so nice finding
Yes.
more of the community and hanging out. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sure we will have you on again in the future to hear more updates. So thank you. And we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kate and Michael, for joining us and talking to us about what you do at ZIggurat. Hopefully we will be in touch and talking about more of the exciting future things that you have coming out in the future. We will definitely be talking with you more soon. Thank you for listening and all of your interesting insight. So before we finish up, the main game that I've been playing recently has been a lot of No Man's Sky. With the 4.0 Waypoint or Wayfinder update patch, they have really revamped this game yet again. Storage has been streamlined. You can now minutely control how difficult you want your game to be. This is now, I've said it before, but this is a remarkable game that has definitely done all they can to prove themselves and make a fantastic experience for players. And it's all been free updates. So if you haven't checked out No Man's Sky, I recommend checking it out now. It's a very fun game to play. But now that that's been talked about, we want to thank you for listening to the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment's official podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions, corrections, or general museum ideas, please shoot us an email at info@themade.org. Thank you for listening to the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment's official podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions, corrections, or general museum ideas, please shoot us an email at info@themade.org. If you want to help volunteer on this podcast as well, please shoot me an email at alex.kalpakoff@themade.org. That is alex.kalpakoff at themade.org. That's alex.kalpakoff@themade.org. We'd like to send out a big thank you to everyone who has donated recently and to our Patreon supporters who help keep the Made afloat. Patreon donors get to listen to this podcast 1 week before it's released on major streaming services, and we will continue with that with future episodes every week. This week's episode was brought to you in part by Patreon donors Dan Fobulik and Elliot B. Thank you very much for your donations. But until next time, I'm Red, and thank you. We will see you next week. Also, the schedule for next week is going to be a few weekly episodes of things that have been recorded previously that we have yet to release, and then we will get back into new episodes that will be every other week. So in the middle of November, expect a new episode every other week. And then we'll be moving from there. Thank you for listening. This has been the Maidcast.